2006 Dodge Ram Cummins 5.9, making this video to resolve an issue with no start, slow start, long crank. What I did is I tapped into the high pressure rail sensor right here and sent that signal to a voltmeter in the truck. So there's the voltmeter, there's the battery voltage on the left side battery. This is hooked up to the sensor wire on the high pressure common rail sensor. Turn the ignition on. And the computer receives half a volt from it. When it's idling, it'll be about 1.5, 1.6 volts. Driving down the highway, it'll be at about 2.73 volts, and wide open throttle is a little over 4 volts. In order for it to fire, it has to be 0.8 volts during crank or higher. Let's give it a shot. As you can see, I had a good crank, but it took a while to start. And it wouldn't start until it got to that 0.8 volt threshold. So lots of times what people will do if they have a slow start is they'll try to get their crank speed up, replace the batteries, rebuild the starter, or give it a boost, plug it in, put it in the garage. Those all help, but you're going around the root problem. The root problem is you're not getting enough fuel pressure because there's too much fuel bypassing at the injectors. Most likely you have an injector, one or more injectors that need replacing. This truck has 450,000 kilometers, that's pushing 300,000 miles, so the injectors may be wearing out. Maybe time to look at that. Right, little buddy? Sometimes if it won't start and we boost it with my sister's little Civic, it works. As long as the neighbor's not watching. Here's a Ford fan. I read somewhere that the engine computer won't fire the injectors until it receives a certain voltage from the high pressure fuel sensor. And I thought I would experiment with that because sometimes it'll go up to 0.72 volts, 0.73 volts and won't climb any higher and won't start. So I thought, well, it's almost getting enough pressure. What if I bypass that voltage and send the computer a higher voltage? I tried that, sent it 3 volts, made absolutely no difference. Which leads me to think that it's not necessarily just the computer that is telling the injectors to fire, but the injectors actually physically need that high pressure to mechanically work properly. So you got to get to the root of the problem. Ready, little buddy? Okay. Good crank, long start. Good charge at 15 volts. Grid heater turns on, goes down to 12, 11 something. Back to 15. So I've had this hooked up for a couple months and noticed that every time it doesn't start, it's under 0.8 volts and it won't climb past. And anytime it gets to 0.8 volts, it starts. Every time. So if stirring crank, you're not getting your 0.75, 0.8 volts out of your high pressure rail sensor, you're not getting enough fuel pressure. The high pressure fuel sensor is right there beside the relief valve. It has 3 wires coming out of it. One is ground, one is plus 5 volts sent from the engine computer, and the third one is the sensor reading. You just tap into it with the multimeter to figure out which one's which I did over there, kind of messily, but it works. So I removed the high pressure fuel line from injector number 1 and capped it off. There it is. Now check this out. If it starts, it'll run on 5 cylinders. Instant start. So I probably have a leak at injector number 1.